when the Protestant Reformation swept across Europe in the 16th century. It sparked a revolution in how Christians understood their faith. One of the most controversial topics that divided reformers from the Catholic Church was the Eucharist. Did any of the Protestant reformers believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist? And what did they think about the Catholic doctrine of Transubstantiation? To answer these questions, we first need to understand the Catholic teaching on the Eucharist. According to Catholic doctrine, when the priest consecrates the bread and wine during Mass, they undergo a profound change known as transubstantiation. While the bread and wine retain their physical appearance, their substance is transformed into the body and blood of Christ. This is the mystery of Christ's real presence. Let's start with Martin Luther, one of the most famous figures of the Protestant Reformation. Did Luther believe in transubstantiation? The answer is no. Luther rejected the Catholic teaching on transubstantiation, but this doesn't mean he denied the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Luther believed in what's called consubstantiation. In his view, the bread and wine don't change in substance, but Christ's body and blood are truly present in, with, and under the elements. He saw the Eucharist as more than just a symbol. It was a real encounter with Christ's presence, though not explained in the same way as the Catholic Church. Next, we turn to John Calvin, another key figure in the Reformation. Calvin also rejected transubstantiation, but unlike Luther, he didn't believe in Christ's physical presence in the Eucharist. For Calvin, the bread and wine are symbols, yet they are not mere symbols. Calvin taught that there is a spiritual presence of Christ during the Eucharist. When believers partake of the bread and wine with faith, they are spiritually nourished by Christ. Though Christ remains in heaven, he communicates his grace to those who partake in faith. So while Calvin's view was symbolic, it still carried profound spiritual significance. Then we come to Ulrich Zwingli, whose view on the Eucharist was radically different from both Luther and Calvin. Zwingli saw the Eucharist as a purely symbolic act. A memorial of Christ's death, Zwingli argued that the bread and wine do not change, and Christ is not present in any real or spiritual sense. For him, the Eucharist was a commemoration, a way for believers to remember Christ's sacrifice on the cross. This starkly contrasts with both the Catholic and Lutheran views. Finally, we look at Thomas Cranmer, the leader of the English Reformation. Cranmer, like Zwingli, rejected transubstantiation and leaned toward a symbolic view of the Eucharist. His influence shaped the Anglican Church's understanding of the Eucharist, which, for many Anglicans, is a commemorative act. However, Anglicanism has a broad spectrum of beliefs. While many hold to a symbolic or memorial view, some branches of Anglicanism see the Eucharist as a spiritual encounter, somewhat echoing Calvin's ideas. The key point is that Cranmer firmly rejected the idea of a physical transformation of the bread and wine. So what's the takeaway? None of the major Protestant reformers, Luther, Calvin, Zwingli, or Cranmer, accepted the Catholic teaching of transubstantiation, but not all of them rejected the idea of Christ's presence in the Eucharist. Luther believed in the real presence of Christ, though he explained it differently through consubstantiation. Calvin believed in a spiritual presence, while Zwingli and Cranmer saw the Eucharist as purely symbolic. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on church history, theology, and the Christian faith. Until next time.